Hello friends and family, it's me, Jessie. So today I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about what it's like living in a tier 2 city in China. So I think a lot of the China YouTubers that do like vlogging and stuff, they live in tier 1 cities, so they like live in the nicer cities, so like New York, Chicago-esque style cities, but I don't. I have a bit of a different experience than they do. I live in a tier 2 city in Fuzhou, China, which is in the Fujian province, and it is quite different. I've been to well, I don't know if Xi'an's tier 1 or tier 2, but it's definitely a massive, well-organized city. I've been to Shanghai, and no, I haven't. What am I saying? I've been to Beijing, and I've been to Hong Kong, and I've been to Shenzhen briefly, but I was just sort of like crossing the border and getting onto the metro from going to Hong Kong. And I've been to Xi'an, and so I've been to some of the bigger cities in China, and comparatively to the city that I live in, it's pretty different. Honestly, it's really different. And it's not like bad different. I feel like I get more of like an authentic China experience living in a tier 2 city. But I thought I would talk to you guys a little bit about what it's like living in a tier 2 city in China. So for me, I live in Fuzhou, Fujian, like I told you before, and it is a tier 2 city. So what is a tier 2 city? I could be kind of wrong on what a tier 2 city is, so like if I'm wrong, I will insert things around to correct me. But I think, well, from what I've read, a tier 2 city, so let me figure out how to explain this. So the way that China and like the government governing system in China ranks like the economic sort of sectors of the country, or like the cities of the country, is like on a tier-based system. It's also like in classes of jobs or like classes of foreigners. It's not just like in this system. There is a sort of scale to which everything is put on in China, and it kind of helps the government allocate where funding will go for certain things, or if they're like a special economic zone or something. Like Shenzhen is a special economic zone, and it's also a tier 1 city, so that means that funding is different for Shenzhen. It is a wealthier city in China, and it has slightly different rules, and it's a little bit more well-ordered, and laws are, you know, followed and things like that. Not that laws aren't followed in Fuzhou, but we'll get there. So a tier 1 city is like the highest ranked city. It's like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think those are the 4 tier 1 cities in China. Hong Kong is a different beast that I'm not going to get into because I live in China, but Hong Kong, I would say it's a little bit different, totally different in and of itself, different culture. That's a different video. But the next rank would be tier 2. So tier 2 is the city that I live in, and I live in tier 2 city. Tier 2 is like the type of city that I live in. So you have, it's not poor, but it's not as wealthy as Shanghai or Beijing. It's sort of like, it's developing, so it's had like a huge boom. Like, for example, Fuzhou, you could definitely tell because it has ghost cities outside of the main city area. So like, Fuzhou is here, Changle is here, the airport is this way, Changle is here. The airport is where Changle is for Fuzhou, or like for the Fujian province. If you go from like the downtown area in Gulo from Fuzhou to like Changle airport, you drive through a ghost city. So what are these ghost cities? I think, to me, in my own opinion of my degree in international relations and stuff, a tier 2 city experiences an economic boom, and usually in China it's thought that the best investments to make are in real estate. So they'll like buy up a bunch of land and they'll build up a bunch of buildings, but then there's nobody who can live in them yet. So you'll have like all of these cities, like ghost cities outside of like the main cities, and they just have no, it's like sort of just like concrete buildings that are like half built or completely built with nobody or very few people living in it. It can be a little creepy if you're just like driving down the road through a city with no lights in a taxi, but it is something that happens around tier 2 cities. So what happens with a tier 2 city, and I'm not totally sure, is that they get different government funding than like Shanghai or Beijing or any of the tier 1 cities would get. Therefore, they're a little bit less wealthy, but they're not quite like super like poor cities. Like, they're not a countryside rural village. Like, I still very much so live in a city that's way bigger than any city I've ever lived in, because I'm from the south of America, and so I lived in smaller cities with lots of cows and like planes and stuff. Not like planes like the ones that fly, but like planes, like, you know, loveliest village on the plains, that kind of thing. So what is it like, now that we've talked about some of the basic elements of a tier 2 city, what's it like living in a tier 2 city compared to like my experiences being in tier 1 cities? A tier 1 city is going to be really clean, really well ordered. It's going to like very much so feel like you're living, like you're in like a huge metropolitan area. It's going to be lots of people, the public transportation is going to be really good, but it's also going to be really well ordered. I don't know why I said but. It's going to be really orderly. People are going to follow the laws. You're not going to have like people driving like maniacs on e-bikes everywhere. Alternatively, in a tier 2 city, it's a little bit different. So here, for example, Fuzhou is really well known for a lot of e-bikes, and people just sort of do what they want on their e-bikes. You can ride on the sidewalk, or you can ride on the middle of the road, like a taxi or a car, and you can drive as fast as you want, which is kind of great, but also like totally not. I would never drive like I do on my e-bike here back home because I would totally get a ticket, but here it's fine. For example, I got pulled over with my ex-boyfriend, and like they were going to try to give us a ticket because we were riding double on our e-bike, and you're not supposed to do that, but people do it all the time. Like another example, you can pay like $2 for a ticket for riding double on an e-bike, but like people still do it anyway. They tried to give me a ticket, but you can't ticket passports, and you don't have to have a driver's license to use e-bikes. Therefore, I just didn't really get a ticket, and I didn't really know what was going on, and they just sort of told us to leave and like get off. So that's an example of it. So like back home, you would totally have gotten a ticket, and it would have been very expensive, right? But in a tier 2 city, you can pay your way out of the ticket. Don't do that. Don't do it. You could get in a weird situation. People can pay their way out of tickets, or like you just don't get a ticket, or a lot of laws that like might be more strict in like a tier 1 city may not necessarily be as well enforced in a tier 2 city. So like trash is everywhere. The littering laws aren't very strong. Like people, it is kind of bad. The littering is kind of bad here. Littering is kind of bad. There's like lots of small shops and sellers on the street that sell various different things. So like little pop-up shops that sell like baozi and stuff like that, which is like a little steamed bun. But at the same time, I think it's also a good thing because people tend to be more friendly, and you get like a more authentic experience. This is like very, very tangenty. You get a better experience of what China is really like, because in the tier 1 cities, obviously, you're going to have more foreigners, and there's going to be more of a Western influence on it. But in the tier 2 cities, you're going to be around more of like the people who are normal, like the common people who like just live in their hometown their whole life, and they haven't really seen a foreigner, or they haven't been to the West, because in China, to go to like the United States, you have to have investments to go to the States to prove that you're going to come back. And so people in a tier 2 city might not necessarily be able to have all of the same experiences that a tier 1 person would. That's not to say there aren't very wealthy people in tier 2 cities. Obviously the economic boom happened from something, because you can't have an economic boom from a bunch of people who like have no money to invest. Obviously people have invested here, whether it be from people from a tier 1 city or a tier 2 city, but the culture is very different. So people will speak dialect here. Fuzhouhua is the dialect that they speak in Fujian province, and I could be walking down the street or walking upstairs to my apartment, which is a very common occurrence, and I have to like walk through the slew of people, and they all start speaking to me in Fuzhouhua because they know like I speak a little bit of Chinese, like enough to like make small talk and stuff, but they sometimes they don't even speak Putonghua, which is standard Chinese, or like Mandarin. And so people will speak dialect to you. Dialect is very common to hear. Laws aren't as readily enforced as they might be in other cities. It's more up to sort of like the local government, and like less up to like national standards, so to speak. So like the e-bike thing, for example. Like when government officials come to visit Fuzhou, they crack down on e-biking laws because they like have gotten in trouble for it before, from what I've been told. I could be wrong. I don't know. I just moved here. But laws tend to be a little bit more lax. People tend to be more, I don't want to say old-timey. They tend to be more, there tends to be more of like an older Chinese culture ingrained in them. Except for like the newer generation, obviously things are different. But like people speak different dialects, and they are way friendlier and way more surprised to see a foreigner in their whereabouts. And so I don't know, this is very meandering, but anyway, so I'm gonna try to keep this video brief and like not talk too much about the economic part of it, which I totally think I did, and I think I like spoke a billion miles an hour. But my experience in a tier 2 city has been people are friendly, it's less orderly, you tend to get more of an accurate depiction of Chinese culture, I think, and I don't know. It's just really different. It's like when you go to like Shanghai, it's like walking into New York City, but when you're in tier 2 cities, it's very much so feels like you're living in China, because China is not like the West at all, because you get like little street shops and like people are very friendly, people spit everywhere, you'll see children just like peeing on the side of the road or taking a poop in the middle of a street. Like, I mean, like you'll be walking down the mall in the nicest area of the city and a child will literally just squat in the middle of the sidewalk and poop. Not kidding. And it's normal here. Like, I don't think it's very normal to do that in other cities, but it's normal in a tier 2 city. It's just sort of, the culture is very different. It's a little disorderly, but it's nice in its own way because it's very genuine and it has that feeling like it's been like this for a long time. I don't know. This is a very meandering situation, so I'll just sort of stop here. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Maybe I'll make another video that's more well-researched about tier 2 cities. But make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Leave me any questions you might have down below. Make sure you guys follow me, Jessie K. Bridges, or Teach English in China's videos to get an update on more of what's been going on with my life and what's going on with the other teacher's life. And until next time, I will see you guys soon. Later.